Sarah decided to put God first in her life. What can we learn from her story today that will help us put God first in our own lives? When her husband left her, Sarah knew she had to find a way to support herself. Not knowing where to start, Sarah prayed, asking for direction. God impressed her to share His word with people living around her in India. As India is not a Christian country, this was not an easy task. First, she visited her neighbors in their homes. "I prayed for the sick, and they got well," she said. "I prayed for those who had evil spirits, and the spirits went away. I prayed for those who couldn't have children, and they were able to start a family." In spite of her success in ministering to her community, Sarah still did not have a source of income. She did not know how she would meet this challenge, but she resolved to put God first, having faith that God would provide for all her needs. One day, Sarah visited a family she knew. Now, they were in the midst of worshiping their God, and they demanded that she join them. She firmly but politely refused. Very angry, the daughter of the house plunged Sarah's hand into a pot of boiling oil. "I prayed," said Sarah, "and when I removed my hand from the oil, it wasn't burned at all." The next day, the young woman's father called Sarah, apologizing for his daughter's behavior. He then asked if she could pray for them. Sarah was happy to receive the call and to have the opportunity to pray for that family. "Now they have changed," Sarah says. "They have accepted God, and they worship with us in our church." 5 families witnessed Sarah escape from serious injury that day. They were amazed. Today, Sarah works as a mission pioneer, supported by the offerings of Seventh-day Adventists from all around the world. Her ministry is introducing many people to Jesus and His saving grace. Sarah put God first in her most difficult moments. Her courage inspires us today. Jesus gave up everything to redeem us, and His love compels us to put His kingdom first in our own lives. As we return the tithe and our promise offering, we are challenged to put God first.
Good morning, church.
Amen.
We want to thank God for this opportunity that He gave us to worship Him again this Sabbath. We are happy because at least we have the freedom to come back and gather again as the brethren. We want to thank God for that. Today, our topic is saying, resting without getting into His rest. Resting without getting into His rest. We are going to look at Hebrew chapter 3. This is where we are going to get this idea, because we are looking at our brothers who were in the wilderness, who were fervent, and they were trying by their means. Every Sabbath they gathered to worship their God in their holy convocations. But now let's see what God said here. I'm going to read from Hebrew chapter 3 from verse 9 until verse 11. Then I go to verse 19. So verse 9 says, "When your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 days. Wherefore I was grieved with that generation, and he said, they do always err in thy heart, and they have not known my ways. So I swear in my wrath, they shall not enter into my rest. They shall not enter into my rest." So verse 19 says, so we see that they could not enter in because of unbelief. So when you look at this story, today is a Sabbath. And also you find that this story from chapter 3 and chapter 4, it talks about Sabbath. But the Sabbath has a very important significance because today is a Sabbath. Looking at our forefathers in faith, those people that were in the desert, every Sabbath, they were resting. But God is saying, they will not enter into my rest. So there is something about this Sabbath which they missed that we must not also miss. Because although they were keeping the Sabbath, God said, they will not enter into my rest. So in other words, when we are studying the Sabbath, for example, and worshiping on the Sabbath, we see that the Sabbath is not an end in itself. It points to something that is far much greater than what you might think. So our brothers here, their worship, they couldn't see beyond the day and the rest which they were resting on the Sabbath. So in this one, firstly, why is Sabbath so important? Let's look at Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 12. There is something, we said the Sabbath, yes, we are on the Sabbath worshiping God, but it is not an end in itself. It points to something far much greater. Those people who say, yes, we cannot keep the Sabbath now because of Jesus, because they saw the Sabbath as an end in itself. But the Sabbath is a pointer to something far much greater than what you can think or imagine. Let's see what Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 12 says. Let me go there. Ezekiel, someone if there can read for me. Right, can somebody read this one for me? I'm opening.
We don't have microphones.
Oh, sorry, you can get one from... Right, thank you very much.
Ezekiel 20, verse 12. Moreover, also I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am the Lord that sanctifieth them.
Yes, I gave them my what? My Sabbath. And that, why were we given the Sabbath? That you should know that I, the Lord, am the one that sanctifieth. So, if the Sabbath is a sign that God sanctifieth, there is something more to that we need to examine today. But it also means that if God is the one who sanctifies us, in other words, is the one who makes us holy, because we sinned in the first place. So because of his love, he sanctified us. So the theme of sanctification is still binding today, as it was even in the desert. So the Sabbath commemoration of the sanctification of God is still as binding today as it was then when it was given, because it is a sign that God sanctifieth. So this rest that we do weekly, it points to the sanctification and the greater rest that is doing it every day. He cleanses our heart every day. So when we meet every Sabbath, we are recognizing him, one, as a creator. But as a creator, unfortunately, because of sin, we lost that glory. We lost because of sin. But now, God is now more important to us as the Redeemer because we were lost. So currently, when I look at Jesus Christ as our Redeemer, we must now see the Sabbath in a very significant way because it points to Jesus as our Redeemer. Let's look at Exodus chapter 33, verse 14. This is, we see, God was giving some instructions to Moses and was telling them about this very important rest. And they were going out to the promised land of Canaan. I like the promise which they were given. 33, verse 14.
Exodus 33, verse 14 says,
Yeah.
And he said, My presence shall go with thee.
Yes.
I will give thee rest.
Yes, I like that one. The rest of God, which the Sabbath signifies, can only exist if God is of the righteous.